So we've had a look at a couple of options for two-factor authentication. The first one being the 2-factor plugin, and the second one being the WP-2FA by MelaPress. Now, in the last video, we showed the WP-2FA from MelaPress's basic plugin that's free on WordPress.org, but I thought it'd be interesting to show the premium paid-for one. Now, this is a paid-for plugin, and you absolutely do not need it. So if you're on a budget or you're thinking you're going to roll this out to thousands of sites, this might not be the route you want to go down. But it's worth having a look at the plugin anyway, because it does give you a lot of extra options, including some very nice to have features that would be great to see in things like the 2-factor plugin, for example. Now, before we go too much further, I do need to say that MelaPress did provide me with a plugin for free. They have no editorial control over what we say on WP-security 101. And it's no secret that I quite like the company, and I have shown you how to use their products in this and other videos. But I wanted to be upfront and just say this video does have a product that has been given to me for free. So let's jump in. The main difference with the WP-2FA paid for one is you basically get a load of more features and more options when it comes to configuring different 2FA settings. So if we click and go to settings, we can see we're on the same screen as we were before, and it's inherited all the information. So while it deactivated the free plugin, the paid for plugin has inherited everything we had there. So I've made a few changes since we last looked, but it's pretty much the same as before. We have this, the enforce option that we had before, what we want to click through. And then we have this site-wide policy. This is the same as we had before. But you'll notice we now have this new drop-down. And it means that we can now assign policies depending on the different types of people. So this means that we can say that administrators must use our one-time codes via a 2FA app, while, contributors, well, they can go via email. So you can set for different roles, different policies. This is really useful. The other thing that we'll see here is that we now have gained some extra primary methods. So we have the one-time password via hardware key. This is not the same as U2F. This is YubiKey's specific implementation. So you need a YubiKey to use this one, unlike with two-factor, where you would just can use any U2F key. The two options for sending SMS, Twilio and Clickatel. In both cases, you have to have an account with the third party because you're sending the SMS messages via that third party. Both have pros and cons. Probably Twilio is the more recognized one, but Clickatel is a good option as well if you're going down this route. For me personally, I have never seen the benefit of necessarily using the SMS route. It is just more faff for most people, and we want to provide the best security kit we can for the least amount of faff we're going to do. The other thing that's on here that's different is link via email. Now, unlike the previous option where we could do send an email with a one-time code, basically when we sent that email, they had to come and dig through into the email and they had to look up the code and type it in. Same as on the other plugin 2-factor. Link via email lets them basically click a link and automatically jump in, similar to magic links. Now, which one's better? To be honest, there's very little in it. The only reason I might suggest that I wouldn't use link via email is that we are desperately trying to train people not to randomly click links in emails. So if a user is, we're training people not to be phished, and we're trying to tell people, look, if you get an email, don't click the link in the email, go to the site and check that it's real and legitimate. By having the link via email option, we basically saying you can't log in except by clicking a link. You will be forced to do this. And that sort of breaks that cycle of us saying, look, nothing we're ever going to do or tell you to do, you will be automatic via email. You'll always be asked and prompted and manually be able to check the site that you're going to. So that's a reason why I might not use link by email, but it is very convenient. And it is a much quicker process than somebody coming through and typing, getting the email and then typing the code in. So up to you which route what you want to go. The final option is push notification, which I was really sort of like, yep, I'd love push notification. It's something that I think works really well in certain scenarios, and it's push notification by Authy. Now, I couldn't get the Authy app demo to work for you. By that, I mean I went onto Twilio's website. Authy's by Twilio, or they bought it, I should say. I went onto the Twilio website, which I already have an account for because I do use it for SMS and telephone numbers. And I tried to create an Authy app and it just didn't work. Just a bunch of JavaScript errors in the console, which is pretty much sums up my experience of anything to do with Twilio's third party stuff. It's all sort of half bodged in. So I'd love to recommend the Authy app because I'd love to be able to recommend push notifications. But the app itself is terrible. It has no export option and they got rid of the desktop and recently got hacked. So if we put all of those together, at the moment, I can't say, let's use the Authy app. The other big difference is the secondary 2FA. Now, before we had backup codes, we now also have allow users to use email based 2FA as a secondary backup. I honestly don't see the point of this. I just don't understand. The only time I think I would enable this feature is if I was to tick that, remove that, and if we were to come through and I was to say, I'm just going to tick for the email up here and say yes. So if there was a scenario where I was going to let somebody send an email and I was going to allow them to send emails to an address of their choice, then I might have this set to allow users to have a secondary backup method to not. So basically, they would be given the choice of, okay, you can either send an email to an email of your choice or to your primary user, but not both. That's the scenario I can see this being used in. Otherwise, this is something that I would definitely, by nature, just go to backup codes. I wouldn't allow them to go back. If you're not letting them authenticate against email in the first place, don't use it as a backup mechanism either. Moving on down, and we have this feature. I love this feature. This is a feature that I genuinely would say is possibly worth considering buying the premium version for. What it does is allow you to say, okay, you can, after I've put in my two factor authentication, for a period of time, I don't have to put it in again if I meet certain conditions. How long should that be? You could put this for a very long period of time, or you could put it for a very short period of time. Now, if you're going to select only when cookie is not found, I recommend putting this very short because effectively this will limit its if the cookie's there but your IP is regularly changing, something's wrong. We probably should set this to a short period of time. How I would to actually configure it is having it set to when cookie is not found and when cookie is found, but the IP address is different. So basically, if you change your IP or the cookie's disappeared, then it's going to ask for the 2FA code again. Perfect. Now, if I'm doing testing and I'm logging in and out all day, it's not going to be a problem. I can say this is a feature that I really, really appreciate. And it's possibly one of the reasons I would think about purchasing this plugin simply for this feature alone. It's probably worth it to me. Is it worth it to you? That's for you to decide. Is it worth it for your users, especially maybe for the boss? This might be the difference between your boss saying, I don't want 2FA installed or I do. So if we can limit that friction while still providing the security, that is our ideal scenario. A couple of other little features, do you want to require 2FA when the users reset the password? Up to you whether you tick this or not. I personally think 2FA should be separated away from password. So I shouldn't, as long as their 2FA is enabled in the first place, it shouldn't be requested for the reset. I understand why it's in place though. Um, I think it adds an extra friction to a process that's already got lots of steps. But it's up to you whether you want to enable it. Do you want to log out users after setting up 2FA on their accounts? Again, That's entirely up to you. Because of the way that MelaPress works, they do the verification inside the plugin straight away. It's not like the two hyphen factor one, which is you don't see the effect of what you've done till after you've logged out, logged back in. I think that it's less important to tick this box, but again, if you wanted to, yeah, you absolutely can. The next bit's on the grace period, which we've come through before and we talked about before. Then we're back into the redirects, custom URL, and then the disabled button. The other thing is we now have this settings. So if we come into the settings, we can see that we have a bunch of things and including this white labeling option. So you can change all the messages. I will be honest, the MelaPress messaging is not brilliant. I think that they are perhaps wordy and unnecessarily wordy. And yeah, I personally would change all the messages if I had client facing stuff here. So this is worth going through and changing all the messages. One of the nice things is you can also change pretty much every email, every text message going through on there. So you can go into the email templates as well, and you can specify what email addresses to be used. You can test the emails, and you can go through and check all the way through, which is really nice. The rest is all just general settings like Twilio, but there is one other thing that makes this a potential that it might be worth investing in. And that is if you have WooCommerce installed, this will become enabled and you can tick it. And you can mean that anybody who has a WooCommerce user will automatically get a custom endpoint and you can get them to set up 2FA all seamlessly. If you're running a WooCommerce site and you want your customers to have 2FA, this might be worth doing. You can do it in the free version. It has the same it has a settings area and you can do this by hand. This just automates this process for you. So it's as simple as ticking a box. Ultimately, you do not need this plugin. You can just use the two hyphen factor plugin if you're not worried about enforcing things, or you can use MelaPress's free version if you are not worried about this. So, should you buy it? Totally up to you. I thought it was worth us going through the various options anyway, so you can see them. For me, on most sites, I wouldn't put this on. However, the couple of bits where it's like, that's really nice to have, it's sometimes worth it.